The lecture hall fell silent as Professor Dornshaw activated the holographic display. His four eyes blinked nervously as images of a blue-green planet appeared before the gathered alien students. "This," he said, his voice quivering slightly, "is Earth, a Class 12 Deathworld." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Most students at the Galactic Academy of Sciences had only read about Deathworlds in textbooks. No one actually visited them. Zixtor raised one of his 6 limbs. The young Arthean's exoskeleton clicked softly as he shifted in his seat. "Professor, why would the Exchange Committee select such a dangerous planet for this year's program?" Professor Dornshaw sighed. "Politics. Humans joined the Galactic Council only 30 years ago. They're eager to prove themselves. And our leaders believe understanding Deathworld species might have military advantages." In the front row, critics chittered excitedly. The insectoid hivemind fragment had been studying military history since joining the Academy. "Their gravity is nearly twice our standard, and the oxygen levels would be toxic to most species." "Precisely why you've all been selected," said Professor Dornshaw. "Your species can potentially adapt to Earth conditions with proper protection. The 4 of you will represent our Academy in the first-ever exchange program with Northwestern Earth University." Floating near the ceiling, Velamore's gas-based body pulsed with colors of anxiety. "Will we be safe?" The professor pressed a button, and a hologram changed to show protective suits. "These environmental suits are designed specifically for each of your physiologies. They will filter the air, regulate temperature, and provide a gravity buffer." Zixtor, critics, Velamore, and the 4th student, Lombok, a crystalline being from the methane lakes of Titan IX, watched intently as the professor displayed safety protocols, emergency procedures, and medical contingencies. "Your human hosts have prepared special accommodations," Professor Dornshaw continued. "You'll be paired with human student guides who will help you navigate their society." The holo display showed images of smiling humans in casual clothing. One was a tall male with light skin and short brown hair, labeled Greg Porter, Geology. Another showed a female with darker skin and curly black hair, Samantha Wells, Biology. The third was a muscular male with a serious expression, Kyle Rogers, History, former military. "Your primary contact will be Professor Diane Miller of their Xenobiology department," said Dornshaw, showing an image of an older human female with glasses and gray hair. "What about their wildlife?" asked Lombok, his crystalline body refracting light as he moved. "I've heard Earth has thousands of venomous species." The professor nodded grimly. "Earth hosts over 8 million species of life forms. Many are dangerous, even to humans themselves. You must never remove your protective gear outside your designated safe zones." The holo display showed images that made the students gasp. Massive waves crashing against shores, mountains spewing molten rock, swirling storm systems, and creatures with sharp teeth. "Hurricanes, volcanoes, earthquakes, predators," listed the professor. "Earth experiences constant environmental upheaval. Yet somehow, humans not only survive but thrive in these conditions." Zixtor looked fascinated. "Is that why they advanced so quickly?" "They joined the Galactic Council only 3 centuries after discovering nuclear power. Most species take millennia." "Perhaps," said Professor Dornshaw, "which is exactly what you'll be studying. How does a species evolve on a Deathworld? What advantages might it provide? Can we learn from their adaptability?" The next day, the 4 students boarded the Academy's ship bound for Earth. Their protective suits were activated before they even left the ship's artificial environment. Each carried data recorders and emergency beacons. As the blue planet grew larger in the viewports, Velamore pulsed with nervous colors. "What if our suits fail?" "The humans live there without any protection at all," said critics. "Surely we can survive with our technology." Professor Dornshaw looked less confident. "Remember your training. Observe everything. Take no unnecessary risks. This mission could change our understanding of evolution throughout the galaxy." He paused. And whatever you do, never forget you're on a Deathworld. The ship began its descent toward the human university, located in what the humans called Wisconsin. Through the viewports, the students could see vast forests displaying red and gold colors, enormous bodies of water, and the geometric patterns of human settlements. They were about to become the first Academy students to set foot on the most notorious Deathworld in the charted galaxy. The ship landed on a concrete pad surrounded by tall green and gold trees. Zixtor checked his atmospheric sensors for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Outside, the air was 65 degrees Fahrenheit with 72% humidity and oxygen levels that would make most galactic species dizzy within minutes. Final suit check, Professor Dornshaw instructed, his voice tight with worry. Gravity compensators at maximum. Atmospheric filters running. Temperature regulators active. The 4 students confirmed their systems were operational. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss, revealing their first real view of Earth. Warm autumn sunlight streamed through colorful leaves. A gentle breeze carried unfamiliar scents, even through their filters. Remember, the professor said, no unnecessary risks. Stay in your protective gear at all times. They stepped out cautiously. Despite their gravity compensators, the students felt heavier. Earth pulled at them with its relentless 9.8 meters per second squared, nearly twice the galactic standard. Hello, welcome to Earth, a cheerful voice called out. Walking toward them was Professor Diane Miller, exactly as her image had shown. Behind her were 3 younger humans, the student guides assigned to them. What shocked the aliens was how the humans were dressed. No protective gear, no breathing apparatus, no gravity supports. Professor Miller wore a simple blue jacket and pants. One of the male humans, Greg, according to their files, wore only a thin, short-sleeved shirt and short pants, leaving his arms and legs completely exposed to the environment. Greetings, Professor Dornshaw replied, his voice betraying his shock. Are you comfortable without protective suits? Professor Miller looked confused for a moment, then laughed. Oh, yes, this is quite mild weather for Wisconsin in October. Greg here is actually from Arizona, where it's much hotter. Greg stepped forward with a friendly smile. Nice to meet you all. I'll be showing Zixtor around the geology department. Zixtor's 6 eyes blinked rapidly behind his faceplate. You expose your skin directly to your atmosphere. Greg looked down at his bare arms. It's like 65 degrees. Perfect t-shirt weather. Critics chittered nervously to Velamore. They must have incredible biological defenses. The female human, Samantha, approached next. She wore a red outer covering and blue leg coverings. I'm Sam, biology department. I'll be your campus guide today. Is it safe? Lombok asked, his crystalline form shimmering nervously inside his sealed suit. Totally safe, Samantha assured them. We thought we'd show you around campus first, then get you settled in your quarters. As they walked from the landing pad to the main campus, the alien students recorded everything. Humans walked casually across open grounds. Some sat directly on the grass, touching the alien plant life with bare hands. Others consumed food and beverages in the open air. Most shocking was a group of humans throwing a circular object back and forth while running at full speed under the direct ultraviolet radiation of their sun. What are they doing? Velamore's gaseous form swirled with anxiety inside her containment suit. Playing frisbee, Kyle explained. The former military student walked with a confident stride, just having fun between classes. Without protection. Without weapons? Critics asked, mandibles clicking behind his faceplate. Kyle laughed. We're on a college campus. It's probably the safest place on Earth. The alien students exchanged looks of disbelief. The humans classified this as safe. As they passed a large tree, a human reached up, plucked something from a branch, and bit into it. She's consuming unprocessed biological material directly from the source. Zixtor exclaimed. It's just an apple, Samantha said with a smile. Want to try one? We can sterilize it for you. Professor Dornshaw almost stumbled. Perhaps later, after proper analysis. They reached a large building with "Welcome Exchange Students" written on a sign. Inside, humans bustled about without environmental protection, breathing the same air, touching the same surfaces. These will be your quarters, Professor Miller explained, showing them specialized rooms adjusted for their biological needs. We've tried to make them comfortable, but please let us know if you need modifications. As the aliens inspected their living spaces, Professor Miller added casually, "By the way, the protective suits are entirely your choice. Most visitors find they can adjust to our environment gradually. Whenever you're ready to try spending time without them, just let us know." The 4 alien students stared at her in stunned silence. 3 days after their arrival, the alien students gathered in Professor Miller's office. None had removed their protective suits yet. They sat awkwardly in human furniture that wasn't designed for their various body shapes. "Today you'll attend your first Earth classes," Professor Miller said. "We've matched each of you with subjects related to your studies." She handed them electronic tablets with their schedules. "Zixtor, you'll join our biology lab with Peter Johnson. Critics, Professor Alan Wright's military history class. Vila Moore, you're with Dr. Nancy Clark for cultural anthropology. And Lombok, you'll observe our engineering department." Zixtor raised one of his 6 limbs. "Are there safety protocols for these classrooms?" Professor Miller smiled. "Just standard lab safety in biology. Nothing special." The aliens exchanged worried glances through their faceplates. An hour later, Zixtor stood nervously in the biology laboratory. Students in minimal protective gear, just thin gloves and small eye coverings, handled specimens with casual ease. His assigned partner, Peter, was examining something under a microscope. "Want to see?" Peter offered, moving aside. Zixtor carefully adjusted his multi-eyed viewing apparatus to the human microscope. He saw tiny moving organisms in a drop of pond water. "These microbes are everywhere on Earth," Peter explained. "In the water, soil, air, even inside us." "Inside you." Zixtor's exoskeleton clicked in alarm. "You allow foreign organisms inside your bodies." Peter laughed. "We evolved with them. Some are harmful, but most are helpful or neutral. Our bodies have billions of bacteria living in our digestive systems." While they talked, Peter accidentally brushed his hand against a sharp tool. A small cut opened on his finger, revealing red liquid. Zixtor froze in horror. "Your damage. We need emergency protocols." But Peter just sighed, walked to a cabinet, applied something from a small tube, and placed an adhesive strip over the wound. Just a small cut. Happens all the time. Across campus, critics sat in military history class. Professor Wright, a tall human with a loud voice, showed images of human warfare throughout their history. The Roman Empire's greatest military innovation wasn't their weapons, Professor Wright explained, but their ability to fight effectively in any terrain or weather. He showed pictures of humans fighting in deserts with temperatures over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, in Arctic conditions below -30 degrees, in rainy jungles with 100% humidity, and underwater with primitive breathing apparatus. Critics recorded everything with growing amazement. In galactic warfare, environmental conditions were carefully controlled. Combat zones were selected for neutral atmosphere and standard gravity. Yet humans fought in conditions that would kill most species before combat even began. When a student asked about the effects of weather on battle, Professor Wright replied casually, "Rain, snow, extreme heat. They're just factors to overcome. Human warfare has always been about adaptation." Meanwhile, Vela Moore floated in her containment sphere in Dr. Clark's anthropology class. The topic was human food customs. "Humans have developed thousands of regional cuisines," Dr. Clark explained, showing images of various foods. Each culture found ways to process local plants and animals into edible forms. Vela Moore's gaseous form rippled with confusion. They deliberately consume substances from their environment for pleasure, not just survival. Absolutely, Dr. Clark smiled. Food is central to human culture. We've turned basic nutrition into art forms. She showed images of humans consuming items that, according to Vellamore's data, contained compounds toxic to most galactic species: caffeine in coffee, capsaicin in peppers, alcohol in wines. Humans intentionally consume mild toxins for enjoyment, Dr. Clark explained when Vellamore asked. In small amounts, many create pleasant sensations or altered states that humans enjoy. Later that evening, the alien students met in their common room to share notes. They handle living organisms with minimal protection, Zixtor reported. They fight wars in conditions that would kill most species, critics added. They eat toxins for pleasure. Vellamore's colors shifted in disbelief. Lombok's crystalline form vibrated anxiously. In engineering, they'd manually handle metals at temperatures that would damage most species. One student called it a little hot but not bad. Professor Dornshaw listened with growing concern. We must document everything. The Galactic Academy won't believe this without evidence. Professor Miller suggested we might try removing our protective gear, Zixtor said cautiously. Dornshaw's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. Absolutely not. Not until we understand how humans survive this deadly world. 1 month into their stay on Earth, the alien students were eating lunch in their special dining area. They consumed nutrient solutions through careful ports in their suits. At a nearby table, their human guides watched with growing frustration. Kyle approached their table. Hey, we've been talking. This weekend is fall break. How would you like to go camping with us? Camping. Lombok's crystalline structure flickered with confusion. Yeah, sleeping outdoors. In nature, we go to this great spot by Lake Superior every year. 4 alien faces stared at him in horror from behind their faceplates. You deliberately sleep outside, unprotected. Critics' mandibles clicked rapidly. That's the point. Samantha joined them. Getting away from buildings, connecting with nature. Absolutely not, Professor Dornshaw said firmly. He had barely left their living quarters since arrival. The risk is unacceptable. Greg leaned forward. Look, you've been here a month and haven't experienced actual Earth yet. Just buildings. Don't you want to see what makes this planet special? Zixtor's 6 eyes blinked thoughtfully. The professor is right about safety, but... He hesitated. Our mission is to study Earth and its inhabitants. Perhaps this is a research opportunity. Professor Dornshaw's skin paled. You can't be serious. We'll have protective suits. Vellamore's gaseous form swirled with excitement inside her containment unit, and the humans will be there to help if needed. After heated debate, Professor Dornshaw reluctantly approved the trip as a controlled research opportunity. He insisted on joining them to ensure safety protocols were followed. That Friday afternoon, they rode in a large vehicle called an SUV, driven by Lisa Rivera, an outdoor education major who was friends with Samantha. Also joining them were John Carter, a quiet engineering student, and Amber Wright, who studied botany. I brought extra emergency supplies, Amber told them, pointing to her backpack. First aid kit, water purification tablets, emergency blankets. Professor Dornshaw nodded approvingly. Proper precautions. The aliens were surprised when the humans laughed. Those are just standard camping supplies, John explained, not because we expect danger. As they drove north, the landscape changed. Buildings became fewer. Trees grew thicker. The aliens recorded everything through their suit sensors. We're entering a less developed area, critics observed nervously, farther from emergency services. That's the beauty of it, Lisa said. 3 hours from the city, and you're in wilderness. They arrived at a clearing near a massive body of water. The humans called it Lake Superior, a freshwater lake so large it looked like an ocean to the alien visitors. This is where we'll camp, Greg announced, stopping the vehicle. The humans immediately began unloading equipment. The aliens watched in astonishment as they set up small fabric shelters called tents. "These flimsy structures are your protection from the elements?" Professor Dornshaw asked incredulously. "They keep rain out and heat in," John explained. "That's all we need." Once camp was established, the humans began gathering wood. "What are you doing?" Lombok asked. "Getting firewood," Amber replied, "for the campfire." Zixtor's exoskeleton clicked in alarm. "You're going to start a fire?" "Deliberately. For cooking and warmth," Kyle said. "Plus, it's not really camping without s'mores." The aliens watched in horror as the humans deliberately ignited the gathered wood. To their surprise, the fire remained controlled, contained in a ring of stones. As evening approached, John walked toward the lake with a long pole. "Going to catch dinner," he announced. "He's going to hunt aquatic life forms." Critics asked, fascinated. "Fishing," Samantha explained. "It's relaxing." The aliens observed John standing patiently by the water, occasionally pulling fish from the lake with his line. Meanwhile, Amber wandered into the forest edge, returning with handfuls of small red berries. "Wild raspberries," she offered. "They're perfectly safe to eat." The humans moved around the campsite with casual ease, drinking water filtered from the lake, cooking food over open flame, identifying edible plants. They showed no fear of their surroundings. As darkness fell, the humans sat around the fire, roasting marshmallows and telling stories. The alien students remained in their protective suits, recording everything, increasingly amazed at how these humans treated a Class 12 Deathworld as a playground. Night fell at the campsite. The stars appeared above, countless bright points in the darkness. The alien students had never seen stars like this from their homeworlds, where city lights or atmospheric conditions dimmed the view. "It's beautiful," Vela Moore whispered, her gaseous form glowing softly inside her containment suit. "Wait until you see this," Kyle said, pulling something from his backpack. He set up a small device on a tripod. "It's just a basic telescope. Want to look at the moon?" One by one, the aliens adjusted their viewing apparatus to the human telescope. Earth's moon hung large in the sky, its craters clearly visible. "Humans have been there," Samantha told them. "We walked on that surface over a century ago, with technology far more primitive than your protective suits." Professor Dornshaw blinked all four eyes in disbelief. "With primitive technology? How did you survive?" Greg laughed. "That's just what humans do. We explore, we adapt, we survive." As the night grew later, the humans crawled into their thin fabric tents to sleep. The aliens remained by the dying fire, too nervous to power down in the open wilderness. "They sleep so exposed," critics observed, "just thin fabric between them and potential predators." "Their confidence is remarkable," Zixtor agreed, "either foolish or evidence of extraordinary adaptability." Around midnight, the wind began to pick up. Dark clouds rolled across the starry sky. The temperature dropped suddenly. Lombok's crystalline form vibrated with concern. "Weather change. Potentially dangerous." Small droplets of water began falling from the sky, slowly at first, then faster and heavier. Lightning flashed in the distance, followed by the low rumble of thunder. The alien suit alarms activated, warning of electrical atmospheric discharges and dangerous water accumulation. They huddled together in panic. "Emergency! Weather event!" Professor Dornshaw shouted toward the human tents. Kyle poked his head out from his tent, hair messy from sleep. "It's just a thunderstorm. No big deal." The rain fell harder. Lightning cracked closer, illuminating the entire campsite in brilliant flashes. Thunder boomed, shaking the ground. "Catastrophic atmospheric event," Lombok cried. "We must evacuate." The humans emerged from their tents, but instead of panicking, they quickly gathered loose items and stored them away. They helped the frightened aliens into the larger tent. "The planet is attacking us with electrical discharges and water bombardment." Vela Moore's colors flashed in distress. Lisa smiled. "It's just a storm. They happen all the time. The tent will keep us dry, and lightning rarely strikes people. Rarely? Professor Dornshaw's voice rose an octave. You acknowledge the danger yet remain calm. Earth weather can be dangerous, Amber admitted, but we understand it and know how to stay safe. This is a normal storm, not a tornado or hurricane. There are worse weather events than this. Kurtix asked in horror. The humans spent the next hour explaining Earth's weather patterns, hurricanes that could flatten cities, tornadoes that lifted buildings, blizzards that buried entire regions in snow, droughts that withered landscapes. And you continue to live here. Why not evacuate to a safer planet? Zix Tor asked. John shrugged. This is home. We adapt. We build stronger buildings, develop warning systems, create technologies to survive. As the storm passed and night deepened, the aliens huddled together in the tent. Outside, rain pattered on the thin fabric, occasionally illuminated by distant lightning. Yet around them, the humans had fallen back asleep as if nothing dangerous was happening. I'm recording everything, Zix Tor whispered to his fellow students. The Galactic Academy won't believe humans sleep through atmospheric bombardment. Perhaps, critics clicked thoughtfully, Earth's classification as a death world says more about our fragility than human resilience. Professor Dornshaw looked troubled by this idea, but didn't disagree. As dawn approached, the storm cleared. The alien students who had stayed awake all night in fearful alertness watched the humans emerge from their tents, stretching and yawning as if sleeping outdoors during an electrical storm was perfectly normal. Beautiful morning after the rain, Greg commented, breathing deeply. Who wants breakfast? I'm thinking pancakes. The camping trip changed something for the alien students. Back at the university, they met in their common room 3 days later. No humans were present. I've been thinking, Zix Tor said, his 6 limbs moving nervously. Our assumptions about Earth may be incorrect. What do you mean? Professor Dornshaw asked. We've spent 6 weeks here, always inside these protective suits. Yet humans live without protection and seem perfectly healthy. Critics clicked his mandibles in agreement. Humans sleep outdoors during storms. They swim in large bodies of water. They consume local organisms. And they thrive. Vellamore's gaseous form swirled thoughtfully. I've analyzed our data. Nothing in Earth's environment is immediately lethal to our species. Just uncomfortable. Professor Dornshaw looked alarmed. What are you suggesting? An experiment, Zix Tor said. I propose we try limited exposure to Earth conditions, starting with air. The professor's 4 eyes widened. That's extremely dangerous. Is it? Lumbach's crystalline form sparkled in the room's light. Humans breathe this air constantly. Our analysis shows it's high in oxygen, but not toxic to our biology. After long debate, they agreed to a controlled experiment. Zix Tor would remove his atmospheric filter for 30 seconds while the others monitored his vital signs. With trembling limbs, Zix Tor deactivated his filter and lifted his faceplate. Earth air rushed into his respiratory system. His eyes bulged at the strange sensation. How do you feel? Professor Dornshaw asked anxiously. Zix Tor took several breaths before answering. Different. Richer somehow. More. Energetic. After 30 seconds, he closed his faceplate. His vital signs showed no damage. In fact, his cellular activity had increased. The high oxygen content, he explained. It's accelerating my metabolic functions. Over the next week, each alien tried brief exposure to Earth conditions. Critics discovered Earth's gravity, while Strong actually strengthened his exoskeleton. Villamore found that rain directly on her gas membrane enhanced her chemical perception. Even Lumbach, after brief skin contact with Earth soil, detected nutrients his crystalline form could use. They reported their findings via secure channel to the Galactic Academy. The response was immediate. Terminate experiments. Maintain protective protocells. Data consideries USSPCT. They don't believe us, critics said, disappointment in his voice. They've never experienced a Deathworld firsthand. Professor Dornshaw replied. His own brief exposure to Earth air had left him breathless but exhilarated. We need more evidence. That day in biology class, Zixtor worked up his courage and approached his human partner. Peter, may I try something unusual? Peter looked up from his microscope. Sure, what's up? Human food. Something simple. I'd like to try it. Peter looked surprised but pleased. Let's start with something basic. How about bread? After consulting with Professor Miller and running several analyses, Zixtor removed his faceplate and carefully placed a small piece of bread in his mouth. The sensation was unlike anything he had experienced. The texture, the taste, the process of chewing, all new and fascinating. His body processed the simple carbohydrates efficiently. Over the next days, he gradually tried other foods, rice, mild vegetables, even a small piece of fruit. Critiques soon followed, sampling human military rations first, designed for maximum nutrition and minimum flavor. Vela Moore discovered she could absorb certain aromatic compounds through her gas membrane, experiencing human spices without actually consuming them. Even Lombok found that certain mineral-rich human foods could be absorbed into his crystalline structure. Professor Dornshaw documented everything meticulously. We need to reformulate our understanding of environmental adaptation, he told his students. Perhaps the rest of the galaxy has become too dependent on controlled environments. When their human friends discovered what they were doing, their reaction was supportive but unsurprised. We figured you'd try it eventually, Samantha said. Earth isn't as dangerous as you were told. For you, Professor Dornshaw corrected. Your species evolved here. Ours didn't. Greg shrugged. Maybe that's your advantage. You're experiencing new conditions and adapting. That's what humans have always done best. The aliens pondered this idea. Perhaps adaptation itself was the true evolutionary advantage, not any specific biological trait. 3 months into their Earth stay, the university announced an interspecies academic conference. Scientists from 27 worlds would attend to discuss the exchange program's preliminary findings. This is our chance, Professor Dornshaw told his students. We can present evidence that Earth's classification needs revision. The alien students had changed dramatically. Zixtor now wore his protective suit without the helmet, his 6 eyes blinking in the open air. Critics had modified his suit to allow direct contact with Earth gravity, strengthening his exoskeleton. Vela Moore's containment sphere now had adjustable filters that let her experience Earth's air currents. Even Lombok had cut viewing ports in his suit, allowing his crystalline form direct exposure to Earth's sunlight, which he found energizing. The day before the conference, Professor Miller called them to her office. I'm proud of your adaptations, she said, but I should warn you, most of the visiting scientists will arrive with the same fears you had. They believe Earth is a death world. Critics clicked understandingly. Exactly. How will you convince them otherwise? Zixtor moved his limbs excitedly. We have data. Biological samples, adaptation rates, environmental analyses. Professor Miller smiled. Data helps, but seeing is believing. Remember your first day here, how shocked you were when Greg wore a t-shirt outdoors. The aliens laughed at the memory. What had seemed suicidal then now seemed completely normal. The next morning, shuttles arrived carrying scientists from across the galaxy. Like the students on their first day, the visitors wore full protective gear, moved cautiously, and stared in horror at the casual way humans navigated their environment. Look at us 3 months ago, Vela Moore commented, her colors shifting with amusement. The conference began in the university's largest hall. The visiting scientists sat separated from the humans, environmental systems humming. Professor Miller welcomed everyone, then introduced the exchange students as the first speakers. Zixtor stepped to the podium. Many guests came from the audience. He wore only minimal protective gear, his exoskeleton exposed to Earth's atmosphere. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, "our findings challenge everything we believed about Earth." For the next hour, the students presented their research. They showed data on adaptation rates, biological responses, and environmental interactions. They displayed videos of themselves gradually removing protective measures and experiencing Earth directly. "Earth is not a death world," critics declared. "It is a challenging environment that promotes adaptation." The visiting scientists responded with skepticism. "Your samples are too small," one argued. "You've only tested in controlled areas," another said. Then Kyle stepped forward. His military background gave his words weight. "Earth humans didn't develop our adaptability from comfortable environments," he explained. "We evolved under pressure, from predators, weather, competition, and conflict." He showed historical images of humans surviving in deserts, Arctic regions, jungles, and oceans. "Harsh conditions don't kill adaptive species," he continued. "They strengthen them." Professor Wright added examples from human military history, showing how environmental challenges had driven human innovation. During the lunch break, something unexpected happened. One brave visiting scientist, a Neptunian fluid form, removed her atmospheric filter briefly. After several careful breaths, she announced, "It's strong, but not toxic as our texts claim." This started a trend. By afternoon, several visitors had conducted their own small experiments. Earth's air, water, gravity, and even food were tested under careful supervision. That evening, as the conference continued, Professor Miller received an urgent message from the Galactic Council. "Breaking news," she announced to the hall. "Based on data from this exchange program, the Council has provisionally reclassified Earth from Class 12 Death World to Class 3 Challenging Environment." Cheers erupted from the Earth students. The alien students felt proud, although some visiting scientists still looked unconvinced. After the announcement, an older scientist approached Zixtor. "If Earth isn't a true death world," he asked, "why did your species and others evolve so differently?" Zixtor considered this. "Perhaps our ancestors took different evolutionary paths. Humans adapted to their challenging world. Our species engineered easier environments and adapted our worlds to suit us." "And which path was better?" the scientist pressed. Zixtor watched as Greg and Samantha played frisbee on the lawn outside, seemingly unconcerned with the ultraviolet radiation, variable weather, and billions of microbes surrounding them. "Different paths, different strengths," he replied. "But I'm beginning to see advantages in the human way." The final week of the exchange program arrived. The university campus was covered in white snow, another Earth weather phenomenon that had initially terrified the alien students, but which they now found beautiful. In Professor Miller's office, the 4 alien students and Professor Dornschai gathered for their final evaluation. "Your research has changed galactic understanding of Earth," Professor Miller said. "The Galactic Academy reports 50 new applications for next year's exchange program." 50. Vellamore's gaseous form brightened with excitement. "From how many worlds?" 23 different planets. Your reports have sparked huge interest." Professor Dornschai nodded proudly. "Our findings have also led to reviews of other planetary classifications. Many worlds previously deemed uninhabitable may be suitable for colonization with minor adaptations." Outside the window, human students built shapes from packed snow. Some threw snowballs at each other, laughing. 6 months ago, the alien students would have seen this as bizarre, dangerous behavior. Now it seemed normal. "I've received an interesting offer," Professor Dornschai said. "The Galactic Academy wants me to stay on Earth as permanent liaison for future exchange groups." The alien students looked surprised. "Will you accept?" critics asked. The professor's 4 eyes blinked thoughtfully. "I believe I will. Earth has changed me. I want to continue this research." Later that day, the students met with their human guides one last time. They gathered in the campus garden, now dormant for winter. The aliens no longer wore full protective suits, just modified versions adapted to their specific needs. "I never thought I'd say this," Zixtor admitted, "but I'll miss Earth." Greg smiled. "You know, when we first met, you thought our planet was trying to kill you. We were wrong." Lombok's crystalline form sparkled in the winter sunlight. "Your world isn't deadly. It's stimulating." Samantha nodded. "That's what we've been trying to tell the galaxy for 30 years. Earth's challenges made humans adaptable." Kyle, who had been quiet, spoke up. "You've changed too. Look at yourselves now versus when you arrived." He was right. None wore full protective gear anymore. They had all adapted in various ways. Zixtor had developed stronger respiratory functions. Critic's exoskeleton had hardened under Earth's gravity. Villamor could now process Earth's atmosphere without filters. Lombok had incorporated Earth minerals into his crystalline structure, giving him new colors and strengths. "We've published our findings in the Earth Paradigm," Critic said proudly. The scientific paper, co-authored by all the exchange participants, was already causing debate throughout the galaxy. "What will you do when you return home?" Lisa asked. Zixtor moved his limbs excitedly. "I've been accepted into the Advanced Xenobiology program. I'll study adaptation on other challenging worlds." "I've joined a new military research division," Critics clicked. "We're developing training programs based on Earth's variable environments." Vila Moore swirled with bright colors. "I'll teach cultural adaptation studies. Earth's diverse regions and cultures provide perfect examples of environmental influence." Lombok sparkled. "Engineering Academy has granted me funding to develop adaptive habitats based on Earth designs." As the sun began to set, Professor Miller arrived with Professor Dornshaw. To everyone's surprise, the professor wore no protective gear at all. "I've made my decision official," he announced. "I'm staying on Earth." The students watched in amazement as their once fearful professor took a deep, unfiltered breath of Earth air. 6 months ago, he had been terrified to leave their ship without a full protective suit. "The next group of exchange students arrives tomorrow," Professor Miller said. "They'll be just as frightened as you were." "Perhaps we could stay one more day," Villamor suggested, "to welcome them. Show them it's possible to adapt." The next morning, a new ship landed on the same pad where the students had first arrived. As the airlock opened, 4 new alien students emerged in full protective gear, moving cautiously on what they believed was a deadly world. They froze in shock at the sight greeting them. Last year's students standing with the human guides, wearing minimal protection, comfortable in Earth's environment. "Welcome to Earth," Zixtor said warmly. "It's not what you've been told. It's not a death world. It's a world of adaptation," Professor Dornshaw added, breathing the open air. "And adaptation makes us stronger."